He's speaking as a hawk. So of course he's not going to go out and say, yeah, well, we're going to leave Gaza now, and we're hoping that Hamas will lay down their weapons. So I think it's fair to say that until October the 27th, when elections are due to be held in Israel, we won't see any significant admissions or anything coming from Israel.
President Trump says that he will bomb Oman if they get in the way of US-Iran negotiations. It's after Iran said that they'd reached an agreement with Oman on plans to manage the shipping route through the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, the special envoy Jared Kushner has been meeting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today. It comes after Mr. Kushner and the former Prime Minister Sir Tony Blair held joint talks with Hamas leaders in Cairo, focused on rescuing the Gaza peace plan. Let's get the latest from Jotam Confino, Middle East correspondent and author. Jotam Confino, what do we know about these peace talks so far and whether they've made any progress?
So we know that Prime Minister Netanyahu's office just released a statement a few minutes ago saying that they held long and productive discussions with Kushner, Blair and Nikolai Mladenov, and that they agreed on two things. They want to establish basically two working groups, is what they said. One group that has to deal with the demilitarization of Gaza, this is armament of Hamas. And that working group, Netanyahu's office said, want to, of course, speed up the process of disarming Hamas. It has to happen very quickly. And also reconstruction in Gaza can only happen once Hamas lays down its weapons. And the second working group will deal with sanitation and clean water and other health issues. Then we've had some more unofficial leaks coming out of this meeting. The Israeli media are reporting that Netanyahu told Kushner that under no circumstances will Israel halt the targeted assassinations of Hamas senior officials and officials in general until Hamas has been completely disarmed. This is the Israeli side. We still don't have anything from Kushner or from Donald Trump for that matter. And on Hamas's side, we know exactly where they stand because they've said this all along. They will disarm, they say, the minute Israel leaves Gaza. So as of now, no real progress really, because both sides continue to stand their ground. But at least according to Prime Minister Netanyahu's office, there's two working groups that have been established.
Well, and I suppose that will be seen as a tiny bit of progress. But as you say, the stalemate continues because disarmament and withdrawal, those are the two issues, and they're not going to happen at exactly the same time. And yet one won't move without the other doing it. How much do you think President Netanyahu is driven by the fact that at the back of his mind, he knows he's got domestic audience to keep happy, and he's got elections, hasn't he, coming up in October?
I can tell you that he's 100% focused on that, and that only. Most prime ministers, most officials who are, up for re-election, they focus very much on domestic issues. They don't want to let down their voters. Netanyahu is obsessed with this. He's falling behind in polls. His opposition, his main rival, Gadi Eisenkot, is now single-handedly basically surpassed him in polls. So Netanyahu is doing everything he can not to give any sort of admissions to Hamas. He doesn't want to appear weak. He wants to appear as the strong leader that continues to hunt down Hamas officials day after day. And he also, just generally speaking, doesn't matter if it's Lebanon or Iran or Gaza, he's speaking as a hawk. So of course he's not going to go out and say, yeah, well, we're going to leave Gaza now, and we're hoping that Hamas will lay down their weapons. So I think it's fair to say that until October the 27th, when elections are due to be held in Israel, we won't see any significant admissions or anything coming from Israel.
Has he got anything to gain electorally by taking part in a process of withdrawing IDF troops in exchange for disarmament of Hamas? Is there anything that, for example, some of the Israeli people are saying to him that he may find beneficial in at least getting more involved in the process?
Look, under normal circumstances, yes. because, many Israelis don't want a reoccupation of Gaza. Many Israelis don't want soldiers to be in there, period. They want to withdraw. They want to leave Gaza. So yes, theoretically, but the thing is that those people that think that, they're just not going to vote for Netanyahu no matter what he says. He's extremely divisive. So he's got his corner of the Israeli society that he's trying to get to vote for him. And most of them are very hawkish when it comes to Gaza. They don't want to move an inch before Hamas is completely surrendered. So that's why he's sticking with this, because he knows that these are the people that he needs to win over. The rest of the Israeli public, they will vote for all kinds of other parties, also right-wing parties, but they will not vote for Netanyahu.
Jotam Confino, thank you very much for that. Well, listening to that was Ambassador Mitchell Reiss, a former US Special Envoy for Northern Ireland. Ambassador Reiss, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon, because we'd love to get your thoughts on this. You've dealt with an apparently intractable situation where you had all the calls for the IRA to disarm, and that was an incredibly long process. Do you see any echoes now in what's happening between Israel and Hamas?
Well, thank you. I think you're exactly right. The similarity is that it's an extremely complicated process, and the keys to Northern Ireland really were grounded in the unique conditions there. Unlike Gaza, you had a process that had gone on not just for years, but for decades, with pretty much the same actors on both sides talking to each other the whole time. So there was a familiarity among all the parties and what the key issues were. I think also there was an independent monitoring commission that was established in Northern Ireland to independently verify that the IRA would decommission its weapons. I don't think we have that yet in Gaza. And then I think most important, and especially pertinent here, is that there was an understanding that disarmament was not going to be perfect. It was not going to be complete, in the words of Prime Minister Netanyahu. And the reasons for that is that nobody had an inventory of where the IRA's weapons were located, what they entailed. And the IRA may not have always known where it had buried some of its weapons years before. And then on top of that, it was impossible to prevent weapons from coming into Northern Ireland in the future. So the goal was to disarm the major weapons, the ones that could cause the most damage, the most lethal, including Semtex and the automatic weapons. And there was an understanding that it wasn't going to be complete. We're not hearing that now from the Prime Minister. How are you ever going to know that the very last revolver in Hamas in Gaza has been eliminated? It's an impossible standard. And if that remains a standard, then there isn't going to be any decommissioning, and there probably won't be an Israeli withdrawal from Gaza anytime soon.
Ambassador, I remember reporting on that Northern Ireland peace process. Started, of course, with the Good Friday Agreement in '98. But even as it happened, loyalist politicians, others were concerned about exactly what you say, the lack of openness about the number of guns, the amount of ammunition, the explosives that were decommissioned. There were worries that there were no photos, no detailed inventory, no detail of the destruction of the arms. But in the end, it comes down to trust. And it sounds to me as if you're saying that that trust may just not be evident yet there when it comes to the current situation. What's your view?
Well, you're exactly right. But let's be very clear. The trust that existed was not from the Unionists and the Loyalists for the IRA and the Republicans. The trust was that this independent monitoring commission had pretty much done the job that they said that they were going to do, that they intended to do, and that they accomplished that, and that the evidence that they showed, the loyalists and the unionists, was sufficient to persuade them that decommissioning had more or less taken place, at least the major weapons had been decommissioned and put beyond use. That was the phrase. Today, there is no third party that the Israelis are going to accept to play that role. So this is something that these working groups, or one of the working groups dealing with disarmament, is going to have to create. And that's going to take time, assuming that the Israelis are even willing to do it. So how Israel knows that there's complete disarmament is an open question right now.
And obviously, these things take years. The Good Friday Agreement was signed in 1998. It wasn't until around October 2001 that the IRA said it had begun to decommission weapons. And of course, the completion of that decommissioning didn't come until 2005. I wonder whether you feel that there is the patience to stick around that long, and what indeed could happen between now and then in Gaza before the whole of Hamas is decommissioned.
Well, you're exactly right. It wasn't until early in 2005 that Jerry Adams in Belfast said that the IRA was prepared to decommission. And it took a very long time, far longer than it should have. Are we patient enough to see that process through in Gaza? I don't think that patience is one of the Trump administration's virtues. You have the chief negotiator, Jared Kushner, also negotiating with the Iranians, also negotiating with the Ukrainians. He's only one person, can only be in one place at a time. That's why these working groups are important. If you can get some momentum on behalf of the working groups, then maybe there's a chance, but it is going to take quite a long time. And referencing your comment earlier, probably nothing is going to happen until after October 27th, when Israel has its elections.
Thank you so much. It's great to talk to you. Ambassador Mitchell Reiss, former US Special Envoy for Northern Ireland. Great insights there, and it just shows that this is a very, very long process.